The ship Artemis Reach drifted through the quiet of deep space. It was small, just a long silver shape against the endless dark. Inside, the hum of the engines was soft and steady, like a heartbeat that never stopped. There were only 5 humans aboard. The captain sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the black window ahead. The pilot watched the controls, calm and careful. The engineer checked readouts on a glowing panel. The communications officer listened to the faint sounds of the stars. The science officer recorded data from sensors that blinked in soft blue light. They had been traveling for months, far beyond any known trade routes. Their mission was simple: to explore, to see what lay beyond the edges of the mapped galaxy. Most days passed quietly. The stars moved slowly, and the silence was peaceful. But that peace changed when the signal came. It was faint, just a whisper under static. The communications officer caught it first. "Captain," they said softly, "I'm picking up something." "Strange." The others gathered around the console. A low pulse came through the speakers, steady and old. Then a voice, distorted and broken, cut through the noise. "We are still here." The room fell silent. The science officer ran a scan. "It's a repeating signal. Same phrase, same tone. Origin, unknown, but it's definitely human." "Human?" the pilot repeated. "Out here?" The captain leaned closer. "How old is it?" "Hard to say. Could be centuries." The crew exchanged quiet looks. Humans had only traveled this far for a few decades. A signal this old shouldn't even exist here. The captain made the choice without hesitation. Set course for the source. The signal led them to a dim orange star surrounded by 3 rocky planets. The third one was small and covered in red dust. It had no atmosphere fit for breathing, no cities, no lights, but the signal came from there, repeating endlessly. They descended through thin clouds and landed in a wide valley surrounded by dark stone cliffs. The ground was flat and quiet, with only the whisper of the wind. From orbit, they had seen something, shapes that didn't belong to nature. Now, standing on the surface in their suits, they saw it up close. Ruins, not alien ruins. Not exactly. Walls half buried in sand, carved with lines that looked like both human design and something older. Towers of metal and glass, cracked and covered in dust. The engineer ran a scanner across one of the walls. "These materials, they're human alloy structures, but there's something mixed in I can't identify. Could it be a colony?" the science officer asked. "Maybe," said the captain. "But if it was human, it's been forgotten for a long time." They moved slowly through the ruins, lights cutting through the dim red haze. The building seemed almost to lean toward them, like they were listening. Inside one structure, they found a narrow corridor leading underground. The air was dry, still. Dust hung in the beams of their helmet lamps. At the end of the passage was a large chamber filled with strange machines. Many were broken, covered in corrosion and sand. But one stood in the center, still humming faintly with power. A single console glowed. The communications officer approached and brushed off the dust. The display flickered, then cleared. "We are still here." The same voice, clearer now, warm, human. The engineer touched the console. The light brightened and the machines around them stirred, small lights blinking on after centuries of silence. "It's responding to us," the science officer whispered. The pilot looked around, uneasy but curious. How could anything still be running after all this time? "Maybe it was waiting," the captain said quietly. They worked together, each taking a task. The engineer traced power lines and rerouted circuits. The communications officer decoded the transmission. The science officer took readings from the strange machinery. Hours passed. The ruins seemed to wake around them. Lights flickered in the halls above. Faint hums echoed through the metal floors. Sometimes when one of them walked alone, they thought they heard faint footsteps behind them. But when they turned, there was no one there. Still, the feeling wasn't frightening. It felt like the planet itself was alive, watching, remembering. The engineer found a small panel hidden behind one of the machines. Inside was a symbol, a spiral, half human, half alien in design. "I've seen this in old human archives," they said. "A research colony from before the Great Expansion. They tried to work with alien engineers on new terraforming systems." The science officer nodded. Maybe this was one of their test worlds. The captain stood quietly for a long time. And something happened. When they finally got the full message to play, it wasn't just one voice anymore. It was many. Men and women speaking together, calm and proud. To anyone who finds this, we are still here. Our work was not lost. We built together, human and not, the world remembers. The stars remember, do not forget who you are. The crew listened in silence. The words felt heavy, not with sadness, but with meaning. The pilot's voice was soft. It's like they knew someone would come one day. Maybe they hoped we would, said the communications officer. They spent the next few days exploring more of the site. The deeper they went, the more the structures seemed to react to them. Lights turning on, doors unlocking. The engineer joked once. Feels like it recognizes us. But none of them laughed. It felt true. On the third day, while the others were above ground collecting samples, the communications officer stayed behind with the main console. They worked on decoding what looked like fragments of another message buried deep within the signal. Hours passed. Static filled the speakers. Then a line of data appeared that wasn't there before. They called for the captain. It's changed, the officer said. The transmission isn't looping anymore, it's adding something. The captain leaned over their shoulder. Adding what? The voice returned, fainter, slower. We are still here. A pause. Then more words followed, soft and new. They are coming back. The air seemed to thicken. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, the science officer asked quietly, "Who do you think they mean?" The captain looked around the room, the glowing walls, the hum of old machines, the faint warmth under the floor, like the planet itself was breathing. "I don't know," the captain said. "Maybe us. Maybe those who built this place. Maybe something more." They didn't feel fear, just awe. Because in that moment, standing in the ruins of a forgotten world, they understood something deeper than discovery. The message wasn't a distress call. It wasn't even a warning. It was a promise that humanity, wherever it went, whatever it became, would never truly vanish. It would always leave a trace, a voice in the dark, a reminder of who they were and what they built. When they returned to Artemis Reach, they loaded their samples and data, preparing to leave orbit. As the engines warmed, the pilot looked down at the planet one last time. Through the viewport, faint lights flickered across the ruins, soft white moving in patterns, almost like stars waking on the surface. "Captain," the pilot said quietly. "Do you see that?" The captain watched for a long moment. "Yes," the engineer smiled. "Maybe it's their way of saying goodbye." The communications officer shook their head. "No," they said softly. "I think it's their way of saying welcome back." As the ship rose through the thin clouds, the signal followed them, steady and calm. "We are still here. They are coming back." The crew sat together in the small command room, listening to the words fade into static. The pilot smiled faintly. "What do you think happens when they come back?" The captain didn't answer right away. They looked out at the stars, endless and waiting. "Maybe," the captain said at last. "It means the story isn't over." The ship turned toward the dark horizon, engines flaring like a new sunrise against the void. The signal grew faint behind them, then vanished into silence. But in that silence, something lingered, a feeling that humanity had touched something vast and old, and that it had touched them back, out there, among forgotten worlds and sleeping stars. Someone or something had remembered humanity, and now humanity would remember them too.